Cultivation of root, tuber, and bulb crops. Root and tuber crops. Root and tuber crops are plants that have specialized root systems. These roots store food and energy for the plant. This specialized root tuber is what we harvest for consumption. Root tuber crops include yams, carrot, ginger, and cassava. This section will discuss the cultivation considerations of specific root and tuber crops. Yams. Yams, also called sweet potatoes, are an annual crop. Botanical name, Dioscorea alata. Days to harvest, 9 to 12 months. Soil needs. Yams require fertile, well-drained soil with a high organic matter content. Propagation method, vegetative, regeneration from a part of the plant. Field spacing. Space plants 50 centimeters apart. Plant the tuber a few centimeters below the soil surface. Common pests. Cucumber beetles, or rootworms, flea beetles, sweet potato aphids, sweet potato armyworms, sweet potato cutworms, sweet potato foliage feeding insects, sweet potato hornworm, sweet potato insect pest, sweet potato looper, sweet potato weevil, sweet potato whiteflies, white fringed beetles, white grubs, wireworms. Harvesting. Tubers are ready to harvest when the vines die back in late autumn. Excavate carefully to avoid damaging the skin. Start a fair way back from the leaf stem. Tubers can be stored for many months in a cool, dry place. Carrots. Carrots are a biennial crop. Botanical name, Daucus carota. Days to harvest, about 60 to 80 days after sowing seeds. Soil needs, neutral to slightly acidic pH between 6 and 7. Good soil for growing well-shaped roots is a light sandy loam. Heavier clay soils are okay as long as the soil is well drained and not compacted. Propagation method, directly sow seeds in ground. Field spacing, plant carrot seeds less than 1 centimeter deep and 2 to 3 centimeters apart. Later in the spring, thin carrot plants to 5 to 7 centimeters apart in rows, 40 to 60 centimeters apart. Common pests, aphids, carrot rust flies, carrot weevils, cutworms, leafhoppers, root knot nematodes, and wireworms. Harvesting, loosen soil around the carrot with a spade or trowel before pulling from the greens. This will help avoid breaking the greens off from the carrot roots. Carrots mature roughly around the same time, but you don't have to harvest them all at once. Leaving them in the soil is the best preservation. Ginger is a perennial crop. Botanical name, Zingiber officinale. Days to harvest. Once the plant has blossomed, the rhizomes are mature enough for harvesting, usually about 10 to 12 months from sprouting. Soil needs. Ginger requires well-drained, sandy loam soil, rich in organic matter, with a pH of 5.5 to 7. Propagation method. Vegetatively propagated from small sections of the rhizome called sets. Sets are produced by cutting a small 3 to 6 centimeter from a living rhizome. Each piece should possess at least one living bud, which will produce shoots. Field spacing. Space 5 centimeters apart and plant rhizomes 3 centimeters or less beneath the ground. Lightly add soil over rhizomes as they grow and multiply. Common pests: shoot borer, rhizome scale, leaf roller or skipper, thrips, white grubs, rhizome fly, root knot, burrowing and lesion nematodes. Harvesting: carefully dig up the rhizomes, then cut off the stems and rinse off all the soil. You can harvest rhizomes as needed or harvest them all at once. To store, make sure the ginger root is completely dry, then place in a paper bag in a cool, dry place. Cassava. Cassava is a perennial crop. Botanical name, Manihot esculenta. Days to harvest, 6 to 15 months. Soil needs. Cassava grows best on well-drained sandy loam or clay loam. Propagation method, stem cuttings or directly from seed. Field spacing. Space 5 centimeters apart and plant rhizomes 3 centimeters or less beneath the ground. Lightly add soil over rhizomes as they grow and multiply. Common pests: mealybugs, thrips, grain borer, scale, lace bugs, leaf-cutting ants, grasshoppers, termites, chinch bugs, and whiteflies. Harvesting. Uproot the tuber manually or mechanically. Tubers can be buried underground in small batches or peeled and frozen for storage. Bulb crops. Bulb crops are also grown primarily to harvest the part of the plant that is growing beneath the ground. Contrary to some belief, the bulb is not the root of the plant. Rather, the bulb is the underground energy storage area for these plants. Bulb crops are plants that we harvest this energy storage bulb as the part for consumption. Bulb crops include onion and garlic. The tops of some bulb plants can also be used for consumption. Onion. Most bulb and green onions are biennial plants, though some onions are perennials. Botanical name: Allium cepa. Days to harvest: approximately 100 to 125 days after planting. Soil needs: well-drained soil with pH between 6.0 and 7.0, and high organic matter, well-cultivated, soft, sandy, loam soil. Propagation method: seeds, if the climate has long enough growing season, or sets, younger onions. Field spacing: sets should be planted 2 centimeters deep, allowing 5 to 7.5 centimeters between sets and 25 centimeters between rows. Common pests: mites, leaf miners, onion maggots, and thrips. Harvesting: onions are ready to harvest once the stalks turn yellowish or brown, begin to dry out, and topple over a little. To harvest bulbs, use a garden fork to loosen soil and then pull onions from the ground.